Hello and welcome to another Crafter's Toolbox. I'm Nicole Watt, the Pixel Maven at Pixel Maven's Retreat, and I'm glad you've joined me today. We're going to be looking at how to create these amazing watercolor backgrounds. And this is a finished project that I did recently that features that same kind of background. And first I'll show you how I use the colors that create this particular background, and then we'll explore a couple different combinations. Okay, to get started, you're going to need a few things. One of the key components is hot press watercolor paper. And the reason we're using this is because it takes a lot of water. And I mean, you can get this completely soaked. It would be like a wet paper towel, and that is exactly what we're going to want in the end. And then I just have a brush and some water to clean out my brush as I go. And I'm using altenew re-inkers. You can use any dye-based ink, but I'm using altenew today, and a water spritzer. So I also have here, this is the altenew palette, and this works really well for getting my inks down on the paper. And then underneath here, I also have a Teflon sheet. This is just a sheet that you would use for baking. It's really nice because it will bubble up the water and you don't have to worry about like getting it all over the place. And actually, I'm grabbing one last thing that you're going to want is probably a towel, just in case you have any mess that you need to clean up along the way. It's always nice to have a towel around. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is spritz this with tons and tons of water. You can see that I am not being stingy with that. That's pretty wet. It hasn't soaked through to the back yet, but it probably will. So while I'm waiting for that to soak up a little bit of water, I'm just going to add some drops of ink. And these are, so I've got Warm Sunshine. I just put down Cotton Candy. This is Rubellite, and this is Citrus Burst. And actually, like 2 drops is even too much. You can get away with just 1 drop of color for this. So now that this is all wet, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Just wet up my brush, and I'm going to go into the full strength ink and just start doing some squiggles basically. Now you can use, oh, and I should say I'm going to clean out my brush in between each application because I don't want the colors to blend. And I'm going to put them into opposite corners to get started. Now, like I was going to say, you can use about any ink medium. So you can use just your regular ink pads and smush them out onto your palette. And but it might just take a little bit more effort to get enough ink to do that. Okay, so you see, just I have it filled up in the 4 corners here. It doesn't look particularly pretty yet, but I can get more movement in here. And I'm going to add in just even more darkness into this corner here. And I can start pushing in to each other. And pink and yellow is going to make gorgeous shades of orange. And if I want to, I can even trail across in here. Okay, so it doesn't look gorgeous yet, but it will. So you can see that when I put the ink on there, it started to move the water around. So now I'm just going to add in generous amounts of water to start getting this to move around again. And now I'm going to actually pick up the panel. You can see how much water I have on here. It is literally just pooling everywhere, which is exactly what we want. And you can move this around until you have it exactly the way you want it. And just remember that as this dries, it's going to dry lighter. So don't be afraid to add in even more color and make it just into a huge soppy mess, basically. This will take a long time to dry. You can use your heat tool, and that will definitely speed up your drying. This looks kind of muddy right now, but what's going to happen when it dries is it will go into this gorgeous shade of orange. And I promise you, you're just going to love it. So like I said, once you have it in place, you can add a little more water if you want, if you've added more ink, and do a little more moving around. And then just pick it up and set it aside to dry. So the nice thing about having it on this sheet now is I can just pick this up and move it out of the way. Okay, I feel like we have time for one more demonstration, and we're going to use some green shades along with the 2 yellows. So Citrus Burst, Warm Sunshine, Frayed Leaf, Forest Glades, Evergreen, and even Jet Black. So Jet Black is a part of this green grouping, and it's got a lot of green in it. So when we put it into water, it really separates. So we'll see what we end up with there. Okay, so again, lots of water in place. And I'm going to get my yellows really firmly in position and then just fill in with the greens. Okay, so basically what should happen is we should end up with some fun intermediate shades of green. And this would be great for, this might be really great for a masculine card because we're pulling out some of the pinks and just using greens and yellows. And already I see that this is turning out pretty cool. Ooh, I really like that. And okay, so this is the black. See how it has lots of green overtones in it? So, and this is really cool. So I may try not to move that around too much and just let it go. Now you can see that this panel is pretty big. This is a 5x7. So this way I'm sure I have full coverage and then I can cut it down as I need it. All right, so I'm just going to add in some more of these colors and do some spritzing. And I did end up moving this whole thing on the bottom, but that's okay. That's a really pretty color. All right, so look, it's a mess, but it's going to be a gorgeous mess in a little bit. So again, you would set this aside to dry, or you can use your heat tool to speed up the process, but we will see what they look like when they're dry in just a minute. All right, these are now completely dry, and you can see that actually this ink staining is from the water coming up underneath it, not actually going through the paper. So you can see that we haven't really used a lot of ink, but it really has created some stunning backgrounds that you can use for all sorts of projects. So obviously I did this project recently, and if I took that same die cut and put it over the other one, you can see how you would have a completely different look, but it would be just as gorgeous. So absolutely give this technique a try. I'm sure you're going to enjoy the results. I would love to see what you come up with. So if you share it out on social media, just hashtag it PM Retreat and I will find it and regram it or share it out on the other social media channels. So I hope you enjoyed this technique and that you give it a try soon. Thanks for stopping by this Crafter's Toolbox. And until next time, happy crafting.